Rotarians and friends, today I have the honor to introduce our speaker today. And really, it doesn't really need any introduction. He's a long-time friend of Rotary, a physical fitness enthusiast, and also our past member of parliament. And without further ado, I give you John Weston.
Thank you. And you said that I was a longtime friend. I don't know how many of you were in the room when I was recovering from my retina surgery. So I was still dizzy. And it was sort of my coming out after having a whole host of operations after the sudden crisis. And this was the family into which I could come and say, look, you guys, maybe you're in member appointment, but I'm dizzy and I'm not really ready.
We thought you were high.
And you were all good. So think about what just happened. We sang, "O Canada, stand on guard for thee," and then we asked, is it true? Is it fair? Is it going to give benefit? Is it going to create goodwill? And then you celebrated an incredible event, which I wish I could have been at if I wasn't on the road coming to Alberta and celebrating my wife's birthday, where you had raised money for a bunch of incredible people who clamber down ropes into crevasses and enable people on the North Shore to enjoy the mountains, doing things. They do it on a volunteer basis, just like you do. You have in the room, or did have, one of our counselors. So you brought together people who demonstrate service above self on the political level. We have a leading Canadian business person, Mike Mahoney, in the room, and all of you accomplished people who volunteer on a regular basis. Service above self, the 4-part test, we stand on guard for thee. And think about the ride for rescue. Karen, I was there for the first ride.
I know you were in the snow.
It could have stopped there. It was misty. We could barely see in front of our faces. It was cold. And normal people would have said, well, that's enough of that. Not Karen, not Vicky, not Artis, not the rest of you. You said, let's make this work. And so, how big was that check, Matt? $29,000? $51,000.
Yeah. And we raised $94,000, and we also give the marine rescue and the other stuff, $51,000 for the North Shore.
So think about what you did, right?
Yeah.
And only how many ride for rescues is that?
That was our
This is our
9th.
10th, right? You
10th
tried
coming
the first
up.
5.
Yes, we did.
And that was just a dream in your eyes, and you made it happen. So you put all of that together, the Turks hugging the Armenians.
History is being made.
Isn't this a remarkable microcosm of service above self?
Yeah,
It
sure.
really is magnificent. So I'm here partly because I enjoy being with you, partly because what you do is absolutely fantastic, and partly because you stand for the proposition that if you set your eyes on a huge, hairy, audacious goal, it can be done. Which brings us to our topic today. So let me just give you a quick update. I mean, many of you know my whole family. So Donna finally has moved back from Ottawa. This is just in the last year, and she's carrying on a fitness business. Shane is finishing off at Queen's in Kingston. Jake is at UBC, where he runs for the varsity track and cross country teams. And Mei has finished her first year at Harvard. She's in second year doing neurosciences.
Wow.
So that's, you knew them when they were that big, and they're all in university, and Dad's happily writing the checks.
Yes, I was going to say.
So, a couple of images for me at Rotary. The club was kind enough to give me the Paul Harris Fellowship. I'm wearing the pin today, and I wear it very proudly. I don't think I deserved it. I helped Rotary articulate the need to raise money to end polio. And then we got the government of Canada under Stephen Harper to match that and double and triple it. And you know the numbers. I think Rotary International raised $1.5 billion, I think it was. Somebody here probably has the right number.
1.9.
1.9 billion, and then that was matched, so it got up to something like 8 or 9 billion, and you know the results, right? It's almost eliminated around the world thanks to your efforts. Another big, hairy, audacious goal, and then Ride for Rescue. I love that picture. That was just before I got run over by the truck behind me. So the problem we have in Canada, and this sets us up for the biggest, hairiest, most audacious goal, is that we have a sedentary crisis. I mean, you know that our kids aren't moving, but when you see the numbers, you know, 90% of our kids or more get less than 6 hours a week of moderate physical activity. This is a huge contrast from when Christopher and I were kids, when, you know, physical education was part of the curriculum in the classrooms. It's been ripped out of schools. Why? Well, various reasons. Time is a problem. We had things like the Canadian Fitness Awards, some of you may remember in the 70s. That was taken out because the kids who couldn't make the grade felt bad, so boom, that was gone. Physical education is no longer a core competency. Kids don't know how to throw balls, run. It's amazing how we have changed in a very short period of time. If you look at the amount of screen time, over 70% of kids get at least 2 hours of screen time. This is after school during the discretionary time. And some of those are way bigger than that. They think of sports as video games. And then we have a nature deficit, which is something that's being studied more. Instinctually, we know that when we're in the mountains, when we're in the trails, when we're doing things that are active in nature, we feel good. I mean, most of us, I think, just get that, but we don't quite necessarily know why. They're doing more and more studies. There's a guy named Dr. Lee visiting Prof at Stanford who's written Forest Bathing, a book about the importance of nature, and he's using clinical assessment to show that this is really important. And then our adults are getting less physical activity than the kids. So what are the results of this? Well, first of all, we have higher and higher levels of obesity and overweightness. So a third of our kids are now obese and overweight. You won't necessarily see this in the North Shore because we tend to be more active than the rest of the country. You know, you take places like Whistler, West Vancouver, North Vancouver, there's more activity here. It's part of our culture, but that's not the case around the country. So think of it, a third of kids obese or overweight, meaning that they have 14 times the likelihood of a cardiac event by age 50. That's really scary. And then going along with that, diabetes rates are just skyrocketing, by the way, especially in indigenous communities. That's where the problem is the worst. Cardiovascular disease, also on the uptick. And this is really important. I don't know about you, but it's a matter of great concern to me when I think of all of these reports of mental health issues. We didn't really talk about this so much when I was in school, partly because there was stigma attached, and it's a good thing people are more open to discussing mental health issues. But when you look at the suicide rates, especially in young kids, I mean, that is really scary, especially in indigenous communities again. There's a relationship between mental health issues and physical health and activity. And then it affects work productivity and how you perform in school. You're inactive. We all know this. If you're active physically, you tend to be more active mentally, and that creates room for spiritual health as well. And then for anybody who cares, too, as Marcus isn't here anymore, but someone who's in government knows that healthcare costs are climbing, climbing, climbing as a percentage of your tax dollar. If we continue along the current trend, 70% of provincial tax dollars will be spent on healthcare in something like a dozen years. Not sustainable, because that means you're taking from education, from infrastructure, from all the other things that government has to support. So we have a real crisis in our country that is not acknowledged to the level that it should be. And it really bothered me in this last election. Several things bothered me. You probably don't want me to go there. one of the things that bothered me was that health and fitness was not a priority. We didn't hear about it. And I want to make it my business to ensure that nobody can become Prime Minister of Canada without making health and fitness a key aspect of their platform in the future. So, what's our vision? Well, R, being this National Health and Fitness Institute, we have this vision: National Health and Fitness Institute inspires active citizenship to enhance the physical, mental, and spiritual health of Canadians, to make Canada the fittest nation on earth by 2030. Those of you who heard me speak about National Health and Fitness previously remember that we got going this parliamentary fitness initiative when I was an MP. I recognized how unhealthy the lifestyle was for people in Parliament Hill. So I got MPs running together on a Tuesday, swimming together on a Thursday. We had coaches. The idea wasn't just to make MPs better MPs, but to use them as role models to speak to all Canadians. And so we set the goal, make Canada the fittest nation on earth. But there was never a date. Have you noticed that when you set a deadline, things become real? You know, let's meet sometime is a vain hope. Let's get together next Tuesday for dinner is a specific plan. So we're saying within a decade or a little more, we're going to make Canada the fittest nation on earth. So what does that mean? It means suddenly you have to start using definitions. How do you measure this? We've created a great board. We have 30 people on our board, 4 directors, 26 advisors with an array of disciplines, leaders from across the country who are committed to this goal. And we want to be a world-leading, evidence-based, sustainable innovation engine. That's a big mouthful, but the innovative part I want to emphasize. We recognize billions are spent on various aspects of sickness care in Canada. If you look at the Prime Minister's letter to his health minister, there's a mandate letter that's published from the Prime Minister to each of his ministers. There's a lot in there about sickness care. It's about opioid crisis, it's about surgical wait times, it's about responding to illness, it's responding to injury. There's nothing in there about physical activity. So we need some new approaches, therefore the innovation thing. And one of the things we're doing is we're going to the digital world in something called crowdsourcing. You've probably heard of crowdfunding, where you say, I have a problem, please help me, and people just donate money online. Crowdsourcing is similar. You say, we have a problem, we don't know the answer, the experts are not coming up with the answer. So let's open the discussion to anybody who's got a good idea. So we're using that crowdsourcing, it's called HeroX, and if you go to the website, you'll see something about the crowdsourcing part of what we're doing. And it's got to be sustainable. So part of that is that I can't see this being a success if it only lasts for 5 years. So whatever we do, and we're talking about an actual facility, it has to be around for 50 years or more. That's the vision. That's the kind of vision that led to the founding of Quest University, by the way. So one of the guys on our board, Terry Partington, in the land development world, he knew that the people who started Quest, Dr. David Strangway and others, were being offered donated land. Terry said, if the land isn't the right land, it doesn't matter if it's donated. This has to be a 50-year vision. So sustainable, and also sustainable in the environmental sense. The building that we create, the facilities we create, have to be cutting edge on the environmental side for us to be proud of it, for us to make it fit within the whole health and fitness world. So some specific goals. This came from our first ever workshop. June 1st, we gathered people from around the country who are behind this project. And Monica Jacko, who is on our board, who specializes in youth leadership and social innovation, she came up with the term active citizens, active citizenship. So we want to inspire active citizens to reconnect with nature and active living. We want to create and support a network of places and spaces that share and generate active design ideas. So no facility in a country as large as Canada can accomplish this goal on its own. But collaborating with others, network with others, it's possible. So we're working with Trans-Canada Trail, now known as the Great Trail, which physically can link the facility we create with other facilities. We're obviously going to be using the digital world as well to link. We're, at the same time as we're trying to create something that will be in British Columbia, we're looking at having a foot in Ottawa. And one of our directors, whose name is Henrietta Southam, she's the daughter of Hamilton Southam, who started the National Arts Center, has targeted a land development in the middle of Ottawa called LeBreton Flats, for where she would like to see our Ottawa footprint. So that's the network of spaces. We also are very keen on promoting innovative initiatives. So I mentioned already, for instance, the crowdsourcing approach. So I've already touched on some of the things that we've done. Many of these predated the National Health and Fitness Institute. So let me just give you a quick overview of, let's say, the governance piece in this. On Parliament Hill, I started the Parliamentary Fitness Initiative, and then we passed a bill. You might remember Nancy Green-Rain and I got this bill through called the National Health and Fitness Day Act, which states that the first Saturday in June every year is National Health and Fitness Day. And you've heard me speak about that before. West Vancouver and 400 other cities have proclaimed National Health and Fitness Day in Canada. So that's a good start, and we've got that word out. But my question is, what measurable gains have we made in Canadian health and fitness? And I wasn't satisfied with the answer. Hence, we've created a new foundation called the National Foundation for Active Living. That's the legal name for the National Health and Fitness Institute. It's got charitable status, so it can issue tax receipts. I mentioned our board. We had this visioning workshop June 1st and produced a 14-page document about where we're going. So it was useful for everybody to get together and actually set some parameters about what we're trying to do here.
John, just quickly, the magnitude of that event was so impressive. There were people from Norway, all over the U.S. that phoned in. It was like an international conference of experts that came early to this gathering to help support it and grow John's vision. So just thought that was really cool.
The group has a little bit of Norway envy, by the way.
Of course it does.
We have on our board, there are 3 persons of Norwegian background, including a guy in Oslo, a Norwegian, who is the former director of Norway's whole ski program. And Norway has an unbelievable network of huts and trails. So we're studying Norway closely for a lot of the things it has to offer. The architectural firm that's produced our concept video is the same firm that's responsible for renovating Parliament Building, so top-rate firm, A49 it's called. And we also have some very cool celebrity videos on our website. Rick Hansen has done one, Jack Taunton, one of our directors, who is the founder of the Vancouver Marathon, Vancouver Sun Run, one of the fathers of Canadian sports medicine. He started the UBC Sports Medicine Clinic. So you'll see those videos. My personal favorite is Lynn Kanuka Williams, who won the bronze medal at the LA Olympic Games, running against Mary Decker and Zola Budd, one of the most famous races in history. Anyway, she's doing this concept video with my daughter, May. So you'll love that if you have a chance to look at it. Anyway, we talked about the crowdsourcing initiative, and we celebrated our public launch September 12th, and we've targeted now April 30th, the eve of the BMO Vancouver Marathon, for our fundraising celebration. So that's, put it on your calendars if you are thinking that far ahead, April 30th. So land, in order to do something like what we're talking about, you need land. I'm very blessed that my dad acquired a big piece of land on the southeast end of Stave Lake in the Mission area 60 years ago. And I spent much of my life grappling with the question, what would our family do with this great privilege? With privilege comes responsibility. So our family is going to donate a portion of the land as a location for the Institute. So it gets you in the door with people who are demanding of your business acumen when at least there's land on the table. There's a picture of it. That's my son Jake. You can see some of the mountains in the background. Lots of water. It's all undeveloped, and it's got great potential. We anticipate phase 1 will have a paddling center and a network of trails. For a few reasons, given the ambition of what we want to do and the cost of it, this is relatively low cost, but will get us moving and position us to do phases 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Where is it located? Where is that?
So, do you know where Mission is?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just on the border of Mission. Our land is right on the border. It's in the Fraser Valley Regional District.
How far from here?
An hour and a half.
It's 90 minutes from downtown Vancouver.
How big is the land?
We own 1,000 acres.
Whoa.
So our family isn't going to give the whole 1,000 acre. We're going to give a portion of the land for this project. But the beauty of having such a big piece of land under our control is that even the portion that's not donated, it can be used for trails and other things that the Institute will benefit from. So it gives us a lot to play with.
Very cool idea.
Yeah. So, and by the way, if you're wondering why I didn't run for office last time, I was very tempted to run again. And most of my cohort did, whether they won or lost. I didn't because I'm donating my time through the end of 2020 to get this project going. I figured I can do more for our country and our community in this role than I could even if I had run and won as an MP. So I want to make sure there's time for questions, so I'm going to accelerate a little bit. I mentioned that our acknowledgement that no one facility, no matter how good it is, no matter where it's located, can do the job. It has to be leveraged. And so one of our directors, Glenn Kelper, who's this genius guy who is responsible for much of Alberta's sports and recreation facilities, for designing them, for raising the money to run them, and for maintaining them. He's on our board, and he has envisioned this network of trails that would tap into the Trans-Canada Trail and Experience the Fraser, which is a real thing, 500 kilometers of trails that would link the Fraser Valley right to the Pacific Ocean. And so we're working with people on both. The CEO of Trans-Canada Trail is also on our board. So that's the idea of linking through trails. And here's where I shift to you guys. How can you help? I believe this is a Rotary project. I mean, this is everything about Rotary. This is about service, above self. It's about getting our youth to be healthier, to build a greater future. And you notice active citizens, active citizenship. It's not about any one of us getting healthier. It's about us going, learning how to be a more healthy citizen and bringing other citizens along. This will not work if it's just another glorified spa or gym. That won't work. What will only work is if you go there with a sense of privilege and you leave with a sense of responsibility. So your ideas, you can certainly email us, or you can always phone me because you know me, but there's our email address. Secondly, you can be an advocate for this project. So the URL is a bit awkward because we have to incorporate the acronym for the French name. So you'll see it on your handout. It's nhfi-insap.ca. And it's quite a cool website. You've seen the logo already. This was developed by the architecture firm. And if you share with me the sense of the logo, you know, it's this figure, this androgynous figure, it could be man or woman, just reaching to the sky. And only a newcomer to Canada could explode the maple leaf the way the designer Jay Bawa did. For me, the maple leaf is a static thing, right? I mean, that's the maple leaf. You can't do anything with our maple leaf. He just blew it up. So the figure's coming out of the maple leaf saying,
It's
you know,
on the bottom right of your sheet, right to the left of the NHFI.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
you'll see
Oh,
what
yeah, I
John's
see
talking
that.
about.
That's
right? So this person is saying to the world, you know, come on, we can do this together, and welcoming the world in. So I love the logo. And then you can also, if you like the website and the videos, it's easy to send them on. We have a whole bunch of social media posts. If you're into social media, you can just grab them and repost. I mentioned the crowdsourcing initiative, so have a look at that. This especially appeals to your kids and grandkids. And then this is where I think you can really help, because I'm not a professional fundraiser, and we need to raise $2 million by the end of 2020 to fund phase 1, which would be, again, the network of trails, the paddling center, and all the planning that relates to that. So far, we've got a ton of volunteer time that's been invested in this, over 3,400 hours to date in counting. And I mentioned the goal, the $2 million, and here's what that includes. Basic planning work, paddling center, network of trails, and this is really key. We want to get our foot in the door in Ottawa while this land development is going on. If we had more time, Mike and I could show you the map, how this development is right downtown. It's the most ambitious development in Canada right now in any urban city. And A49, the architectural firm, and Henrietta have some relationship to what's going on there. And then we're absolutely committed to have a really good clearinghouse of information and analysis. Several of our board members are academics who specialize in health and fitness issues, physical health and mental health. And we already have our first project. Jeff Wilson on our board is a prof at Waterloo, and he is going to be doing through our institute a study about the impact of nature on mental health and how it can save healthcare dollars. So that's our very first project. And okay, what else? So don't forget, April 30th. I'd love it if you could come. Tickets will be $150, and it will be at Mike Mahoney's operation down in Burrard Landing, one of the most welcoming places in Vancouver for something like this.
And it's going to be a celebration that night. There'll be a panel of speakers, perhaps Rick Hansen. So it's going to be very interactive social occasion. So yeah, we're really excited about that. So you'll see some great speakers, and it'll be a great evening.
It really will be fun. You'll see some of the icons about health and fitness. So if you want to get involved, I think the biggest way this club can get involved is linking me to Rotary and getting Rotary formally committed to this. You know, and I'm not going to be presumptuous to say this is something that will be a priority, because you have many great priorities. But if it does become one, then you can help me shape that and figure who I should be talking to. On a more basic level, certainly you can buy tickets to the fundraiser, donate funds. We have an online donation button, we issue tax receipts. And private auction items. So, you know, some people are donating time at their recreation place at Whistler or whatever. There's the usual donations, bottles of wine, art, and things like that. We will be having a very ambitious silent auction. We hope to raise a lot of money at that April 30th event. I hope there's time for questions. Yeah, Karen.
John, it seems to me one of the most basic supports you need is in the school system. Like where that's horrifying, and I was aware of that, where you say we don't have phys ed and so on. Have you any plans to reach out to the powers to be in the education system?
One of the most powerful roles our institute will play will be a lobbying role. So, you know, you heard me say, I don't think anybody should become leader of Canada without making this a priority, and the institute will be on the case of our political leaders in a big way. It helps that I've been a member of Parliament,
Yeah.
that I know how the system works, and I still have friends in all parties. So, you know, we do have reach, but it's not working. So that's going to change.
And also, it is in our district areas, right? The mission. Maybe it's a good idea we can introduce the Bala to the John.
Yes.
And as a Rotary, our governor, District Governor Bala, I can mention about your project. and they get the support from the clubs around your facility, and they discuss start from there.
Matt, it's actually in District 50/50.
Is it?
But we can get that district involved.
Work together.
Yeah, that would be a multi-district initiative.
John, what you say is so true about, even though British Columbia is pretty good around fitness and so on, I was at a presentation by the powers to be in the planning department of the new BC Ferries terminal, the plans in Horseshoe Bay. And fortunately, when they had feedback after they presented what they were planning, they had a president of the Bike Association. Now, they spent all this money, all these wonderful models. There was not one mention or allowance for cyclists. They wasn't even on their radar. And of course, I didn't think of it, but I was so glad that guy was there to say, in this day and age, they weren't going to change anything to let the cyclists not stand there in the cold. And that astounded me.
So
That it wasn't even, they didn't even think about it.
one of the things I've been advocating for a decade is that Canada should have a national cycling strategy. So whenever you build infrastructure, there ought to be a checklist with a question: is there an opportunity for a bike-friendly aspect to this infrastructure? It doesn't commit you to build it, doesn't commit a penny.
But
It
it
just
raises
says
your
it
awareness.
has to be on the list of questions.
Yeah.
You know, certainly you check for safety. Certainly you check for accessibility. You should also check for bike-friendly aspects. Can you or can't you?
Yeah, so that really was really eye-opening to us, that they hadn't even thought of that. With all these people
Unbelievable.
putting these expensive models and plans together, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. Here we are worrying about bike lanes all over the city.
And then they didn't
And then
even,
there are none at the ferry.
yeah, it was just, so they heard it loud and clear, I hope, so, anyway.
We should consider moving the ride to the National Health and Fitness Day.
Well, that'd be powerful.
Yeah.
In fact, Marcus was asking this morning, what can we do at the District of West Vancouver to elevate the profile of National Health and Fitness? Because West Van was, I think, the very first proclaimer of the 400 cities, maybe West Van or Whistler. And he wants to know, he's met with me separately, how can we lift the profile? So that would be a great way to do it. Or even if it's on a different day, you could still tie it into the day.
Yes.
Well, you could have a booth there and promote, even though you're preaching to the converted with the cyclists, right? Anyway.
John, can I announce officially you are in our advisory committee to help us for this year?
I think I was just voluntold.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's make lots of help. Thanks a lot. And yeah.
Thank you, John, for your excellent presentation. In appreciation of your presentation today, we provided a check for the end of polio cause, and we gave it to the polio cause.
Ah, merci.
Thanks a
Good
lot.
answer.
sir.
Good answer. All right, let's pretend like you've done this before, guys. All right. Awesome, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Very good, I'll take it.